30 seconds and counting. 25 seconds and counting. We are still go. 20 seconds. Guidance alert. The guidance system now going internal. 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Ignition sequence start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning to very early morning to viewers in Europe and Africa. Good late evening or very early morning once again to viewers in the Western Hemisphere. Good evening to most of you anyway. Good afternoon probably to viewers in the Pacific Rim. Welcome to the Angry Astronaut. So here we go. New Glenn. Take 2, although I do need to warn you that right now Blue Origin has not put up a live stream link yet, although we are an hour away from liftoff from the launch window opening up. So they still have some time to get that link up, but still a little disappointing that they haven't done that yet, but we will see what happens. Where's everybody checking in from? And by the way, Anton Nim and everybody else who was present last night to get this audio, to help me get this audio working. I had almost 100 people online with me, just listening to me count to 10 on numerous different alternatives until eventually we figured out the audio problem. And thank you very much. I can't believe how many of my viewers just sat on the live stream with me, helping me get this issue dealt with. Was so deeply moved. I even got super chats last night. I mean, you guys are so amazing. Thank you for being so supportive to this channel. Okay, so where's everybody checking in from? We've got Mars and Musk Station Mars. There we go. And then we got California, Los Angeles. We also have Australia and Maryland. We have Coffeeville, Kansas. How about that? That's the Battle of Coffeeville, one of the most famous gun battles in the Old West. Adelaide, Australia. Thanks very much for checking in today, Adelaide. Hello, San Diego. We also have Calgary. Hello, Calgary. Hope you're doing well. We got Minnesota. Hello, Sue. Nice to have you here. Thanks for joining us. Hello, Cleveland, Ohio. Hello, Roswell. I've just gotten to know Sue, by the way. She was with Dr. Gilbert Levin, who headed up the life detection experiments on the Viking lander in 1976. And we've had an opportunity to get to know one another, and I'm hoping for an opportunity to pay these folks a visit and interview them about Dr. Levin and his discoveries. Hello, Iraq. Hello, if you are indeed checking in from there, wow. Hello, Oakland. By the way, I am a big fan of Oakland, California, because I'm a Raiders fan. I went to Oakland a number of times to check out Raiders games. Rough town, but a great people. Hello, Moss Isley. Hello, Seattle and Swindon, UK. Hello, Barking, London. And thanks very much, William. Appreciate it. Hello, India. Thanks very much for checking in today. Hello, Sheffield. Yeah, the Dalton Gang, absolutely. Battle of Coffeeville, Dalton Gang. That was an incredible, incredible event. If you like old West gun battles, anyway. Hello, Stockholm. Hello, Kingston, Washington. I'm sure the people who were at the Battle of Coffeeville didn't think it was very cool at the time. Hello, Colorado. Hello, Galveston, Texas. Another Colorado. Hello, that is my home state, by the way. Let's see what else we have. We have Texas, hello, and we also have Holland and Loveland, Cleveland again, Georgetown, Texas. Hello, everybody. Yeah, the Raiders moved to Vegas. Still fun to watch, although they just aren't the Raiders without if they're not in Oakland. In my view, Oakland is just a rough, nasty town for a rough, nasty bunch of football players, and that's just how it always felt to me. But as I say, even though Oakland might be a rough, nasty town, they had great people. I always really loved going to Oakland to go to those games. Hello, New England. Kenny Stabler, absolutely. Stabler was the quarterback when I was a kid, when I first became a fan. So yeah, hello, Washington. We got people as usual all over the world checking in, almost 200 at the moment. And currently, and this is something that could change at any time, but currently Blue Origin has not put up their live stream link yet. Now, of course, we are presuming that they're going to put a link up here soon. This is not very different from the way they did things last time, even though they did turn up their link a little bit earlier than this. But then again, they may not have the big show planned today that they had previously. They might not have the same staff available for the broadcast with all of the reschedulings that ended up happening with New Glenn. It's possible that they can't get the same people available for the broadcast. Blue Origin isn't the same as SpaceX, to be clear. SpaceX, the way they do things is that you show up to work whenever you're needed, and that's just all there is to it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You got maternity leave, you've got vacation, you got any of those things, forget it. You're coming into work when needed. But that's generally the case anyway at SpaceX, according to the people that I've interviewed who left there. And with Blue Origin, they are pretty much like a regular corporation with sticking to all the typical rules for those sorts of things. And that can be problematic. I mean, that means that you don't necessarily have your staff when you need them for certain important events. But at the same time, they do seem to adhere a little bit more to traditional policies on things like that. It's the employees that I've spoken to at Blue Origin and former employees there, they all really enjoyed being there. It seems to be a very employee friendly environment. Not to say SpaceX people didn't enjoy working there. They definitely did enjoy the experience, but the burnout rate is just higher at that company. It's more difficult, but at the same time, given how many rockets they launch, we shouldn't be all that surprised. So yeah, it's it's just how these companies work. And I have no opinions one way or the other on that as to what the right thing to do is. It's just the way they are. Go ahead, please, Aaron. Okay, Blue just pushed their stream. They are up and running, at least as far as having a splash screen ready. So how about that? Just as I was talking, their ears must have been burning. And yeah. Sue says, I've heard Elon works his employees hard at SpaceX and Hawthorne. Yeah, just about everybody I've ever interviewed that left SpaceX to start a company elsewhere or to work at a company elsewhere, they all say the same thing. You work for SpaceX and you essentially, that is your life. That is your first priority over everything else. Family comes second, SpaceX comes first. And again, I wouldn't want to work someplace like that, but at the same time, a lot of really talented people do, and they make it work. They make it work really well, actually. So, as I said before, not saying it's right or wrong. That's just their reputation. Um, all right, so let's see. Yeah, as we said, we got a live stream ready to go. So things look like they're about to get going. I have to say, I am pleasantly surprised that Blue Origin has decided to provide the coverage the way that they have, given how incredibly secretive they have been for all this time about New Glenn. How much they've just hidden everything. um I'm impressed that they finally decided to actually go public with this rocket and go public with their coverage rather than try to cover it up in case there's an anomaly tonight. Which again, they've really tried to cover up anomalies in the past. They had an anomaly with their one of their second stages on New Glenn, an explosion that blew the door off of a hangar a few months ago. I don't know if you guys recall that I covered that particular incident, and Blue Origin still has not made a statement about that incident at all. Whereas ULA had an incident with a Centaur 5 test article that blew up quite dramatically in Huntsville, Alabama. While I was there, actually, I heard the explosion. It was quite shocking. But in any event, they went public with all of that almost immediately after it happened. So yeah, I'll tell you, it's yeah, it's just a different philosophy. So I'm glad that Blue Origin has gone more public and given us a little bit more transparency, because American taxpayers anyway have put billions and billions of dollars into this rocket, because Blue Origin is the second HLS provider for Artemis, and they have secured a multi-billion-dollar contract, and New Glenn is part of that contract. So it's in my view, it's Blue Origin's responsibility, given the fact that they are doing such an important job, to keep the American public up to date on how this rocket is doing. Oh, how's this? I didn't know we had somebody from Steamboat checking in. That's awesome. I love Steamboat. We got a poll going right now. Thank you very much, producer, for putting that poll up. And everybody say thank you to ASN tonight and this morning. ASN works super hard to try to bring the best possible quality to these live streams. He invests tons of his time and effort in all of this. Our friend in Yorkshire who makes all of this happen. So everybody in the chat or wherever, just make sure to give your appreciation to awesome ASN. Who just does so much for this channel and has been helping me since I had 700 subscribers. Since way back in the day when I couldn't afford to pay him a penny. He helped me get this channel to where it is today. So thanks very much. All right. So let's go ahead and as I say, I'm not sure exactly when Blue Origin will go live, but it will be happening soon. And in the meantime, I'm happy to take any questions. Again, this is a very, very very critical launch on a lot of different levels. As I've already mentioned, Blue Origin is the second human landing system provider for Artemis. And it's a very, very critical role that they're playing. If anything happens with Lunar Starship, if Lunar Starship does not mature as quickly as we need it to mature, then New Blue Origin will be the only backup, the only reserve provider for HLS to get the job done if SpaceX, for some reason, cannot do it. And even though SpaceX is awesome and they always do a great job on everything they do, Lunar Starship is a tough job, very difficult to get from where it is now to getting to the point where it has reusability mastered, and it has low Earth orbit refueling mastered, and can successfully set down on the surface of the moon, a huge, very tall rocket like that, setting down on lunar regolith. I think that's going to be tough. There's going to be a lot of extreme challenges for Lunar Starship that could delay the advent of that rocket. I'm sure it will eventually work. I'm sure that Starship will eventually revolutionize spaceflight in a huge way. But unfortunately, not the case. Okay, as far as the Blue Origin payload, there's a question there, Christopher. Sure, I'm happy to answer that question. Blue Origin has nothing on the rocket as far as active payloads. What they have is a Pathfinder vehicle for the Blue Ring. And what the Blue Ring spacecraft does, it's kind of a space tug, a space tender, and perhaps even a space repair vehicle. The idea behind Blue Ring is when it gets deployed, it can deploy satellites into a certain orbit, and then it can move around to other orbits. It has enough fuel and enough propellant enough and good enough engines rather to send it from one orbit to another. And the objective is for it to for example, move satellites to different orbits, or to repair malfunctioning satellites, or to restore power to satellites that for some reason have lost power, to refuel satellites. So it has unfortunately, the Pathfinder doesn't have all that functionality. It's mostly just dead weight. But nevertheless, the New Glenn will deploy this Blue Ring Pathfinder in the same way that it will deploy the actual Blue Ring. So it's not exactly a full-fledged payload, but still it is a payload, something to experiment with, and it's a very important part of Blue Origin's infrastructure plans for the future, because Blue Ring is going to be critical to allowing New Glenn to do a lot of the things that it's supposed to do, deploying heavier satellites to higher orbits than would ordinarily be possible with this rocket. So we'll see. And it's very critical that that we don't have an RUD today. It's really critical for Blue Origin to not have any significant issues at all. It's just simply because this is a rocket that has been tested to failure on all of its major components at this point. This is a rocket that should be able to perform as designed from the beginning. This should be the mature commercial version of New Glenn, ready to start taking payloads up. So if it encounters any significant issues whatsoever, then we could run into a lot of problems. A lot of problems indeed. No, I have not interviewed Richard Hoover. I'd love to do that, Sue. So yeah, I've got a lot of things to catch up on in that regard, and I would definitely like to do that. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that New Glenn, is going to have a flawless flight today, but at the same time, it's important that it at least gets to orbit, that it at least completes its flight plan. If the producer would be so kind as to perhaps put up, I don't know if he still has that flight plan information, but if we could put a graphic up for that and show the viewers what the flight plan is. A lot of you may not have been available. No, what we're looking at right there, that's the yeah, okay. Yeah. No problem. So we'll get there eventually. That's the payload capacity of New Glenn, by the way, which is impressive. Again, because of that huge fairing that that New Glenn has. Okay, there we go. Now we have it up at the moment. That is the trajectory for this mission. Oh, wait a minute. No, that's New Shepard versus New Glenn. Okay, yeah. Yeah, we're getting there. No, not the flight plan visibility either. We're looking for something that shows the orbit. So we're getting there. We'll find it here in just a there we go. Yep. There we go. That's the one. Okay. So this as you can see, the Blue Origin has a very ambitious flight plan here. Instead of just going to low Earth orbit, the way Starship has been doing for the last 6 flights, and will be today on the 7th flight as well, this is going to a very high orbit indeed, with an apogee of 19,300 kilometers and perigee of 2,400 kilometers. That is a very ambitious orbit for a first launch. And again, this is to demonstrate New Glen's capabilities and what it's going to be able to deliver, how how it can deliver a substantial payload out to high orbits. So then that does set it apart from some of the other rockets out there. So this is a heavy lift, reusable rocket that's capable of delivering big payloads up to extreme orbits or to interplanetary destinations, which is similar to Falcon Heavy. Really, it's a lot of its capabilities are very similar. One of the problems with Falcon Heavy, though, is that its fairing is nowhere near as big as New Glen's 7-meter fairing. New Glen's fairing is absolutely gigantic, which means it will be able to send some very big payloads out to these very high orbits or even to interplanetary destinations. Things like the Blue Moon spacecraft for Artemis, it'll be able to fling that spacecraft out to the moon without a lot of refueling. Now, there will be refueling required for Blue Moon once it gets out to cislunar space, but it won't require that in order to get there. John, thank you so much for the fiver. I really appreciate it. And yes, it is quite early. Folks, I need to grab some medicine real quick. I will be right back in just a second. Hello again, everybody. Okay. So, and as we can see, the flight plan is not dissimilar from Falcon 9 flight plans that we see all the time. Yeah, pill popping. Well, an antacid. These are called Rennies here in Britain. This is the British equivalent of a Tums. I'm afraid I suffer from some heartburn and things like Prilosec and all that. I tell you, that does nasty stuff to me. Incidentally, please don't forget to like and subscribe, guys. We have over 300 people watching right now. Make sure to hit that thumbs up, and also if you're not subscribed, please do so. Definitely helps this channel in a big way. And once again, I appreciate the fact that we have such a big crowd tonight. This is actually a substantially bigger crowd than we had before. That is a good point, Pyro, that you're bringing up is the 7 BE4 engines do not provide enough power to loft a much bigger payload than for example, Vulcan Centaur can actually throw a heavier payload out to higher orbits than New Glenn can, and also that's the case with Falcon Heavy. So yeah, that does make a big difference. But still, New Glenn will have the capability of getting 40 tons to low Earth orbit, where that big fairing will definitely help. Predictions of launches of Blue Origin, SpaceX. I think Blue Origin will get to orbit I think that there's reason to believe that they will successfully carry out their launch trajectory. I do not believe that they will land the booster on the first attempt. They might hit the barge. They might hit Jacqueline on the way down, but I don't think they're going to land it. I'll be shocked if that happens. But who knows? It would be a good thing if they at least got it to where they make contact with the barge. This is something that, as I've mentioned a number of times in the past, the Gwynne Shotwell, when the first Falcon 9 booster made it back to the barge but did not land and exploded. Gwynne Shotwell was jumping up and down with delight at the time, and people were asking, "What's your problem? Why we just blew up the booster? It didn't work." Blah blah blah. And her response is, "I didn't think we would hit the barge. I didn't think we would get that far." So to her, just getting to the barge was an accomplishment in itself. And I think that that is the best thing that we can expect here. Oh, thank you, Parth. I did not realize that ISRO managed to dock their satellites together. I knew that the last time that they got within a few hundred meters of each other, but they actually managed to pull off a docking recently. That's very impressive that ISRO managed to do that. It's something I intend to cover, by the way, because that whole docking satellites is a big accomplishment for the future of orbital space flight. It's very important that we have that docking capability between satellites mastered, so satellites can repair each other, satellites can recharge each other, satellites can refuel one another. Super important indeed. Will, you're right. I'll tell you, this is way before bedtime here in the UK. It's not even 5:30 a.m. yet. And the New Glenn live webcast will not get started for another 13 minutes, T minus 20. Thank you so much, Grand Rapids. Thank you so much for your support. Really, really appreciate it. And just awesome. That, as I say, this kind of support is what's critical to keeping this channel going. If you're not a Patreon supporter, please consider it. Because we have a big library of Patreon exclusive videos. We're adding another title this week. Actually, should be over this weekend. And that is a title about the first real international space station, which was the Salyut 6 space station. And by the way, Salyut 6 also allegedly had a UFO encounter in the early 1980s. So we'll see. But we definitely have some interesting details to bring you on Salyut 6. The reason it's an important station to me is that's the first orbital object that I ever saw. As a kid, our astronomy teacher took us up on the roof of the school at night, and we got to see Salyut 6 track across the sky. And it was so huge and bright and impressive. And I had never seen a satellite, let alone a space station, tracking across the sky. It was quite amazing, indeed. So in any event, we got we'll be adding a new exclusive title for the Patreon supporters here soon. Okay. Let's see. Mir was dangerous but fun. Yeah. Well, you know what? Mir didn't actually start going into a downward spiral technologically until the fall of the Soviet Union. That it lost a lot of its support at that time. We really couldn't expect the Russian space program to be able to keep Mir operating reliably after they lost almost all their funding. But at the beginning, Mir operated very, very well. But yeah. Obviously, when your government is in chaos, and your elite troops, the Spetsnaz troops, were growing potatoes in their in on their training ground so that they had something to eat. That's they seriously, their elite troops weren't even being fed at that time. Yeah, you're not gonna have a very good space station under those conditions. Andre, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate your support, and thanks for joining us from Brazil. Really, really appreciate it. So, yeah, at this point, we're about 10 minutes away from the Blue Origin broadcast beginning. That should be how it works. We will see, however, because we could have a delay right from the onset. I'm checking their information. Let's see here. Let's see if we have anything new. 3-hour launch window opening. Nope. There doesn't appear to be any changes. The last update we got from Blue Origin was 19 minutes ago, and they don't seem to be saying that there's any sort of issues, at least not at the moment. And not feeding Russian troops is just how Russia does troops. That's a good point, Mark. But you'd think with the Spetsnaz, the best troops that they had, their elite people would get something. But yeah, they're having to grow potatoes in their training ground in the early 90s. Definitely no fun for those folks. But that was a long time ago. But obviously, Russian troops still going through hell these days. All of that very, very rough for Russia and Ukraine, at least as far as the people actually fighting that war, the people who never made any decisions as far as whether or not that war should happen or not. But they, of course, are the ones paying the price, as is the case with any war. So let's see here. Incredible on the men in the Soviet space station lost signal during the Soviet collapse and didn't even know what was happening. Yeah, and just went on with their mission. That's how cosmonauts did do things. Definitely. So, yeah, no fun. No fun indeed. Let's see. What else do we have? A 3-stage New Glenn. Yes, I think that is very possible. The New Glenn's capabilities to much higher orbits would be improved dramatically by a 3rd stage, but in some ways, that's what Blue Ring does, or it has that function as kind of serving as a 3rd stage to push payloads to even higher and higher altitudes. So in some ways, Blue Ring will serve that purpose, but a full-fledged 3rd stage would even be better. The 2nd stage plan to burn up, honestly, I'm not sure, given how extreme that orbit is. I would say that there's a good chance that the 2nd stage won't burn up because the apogee of the orbit is still a couple thousand kilometers up. They really have put this 2nd stage into an extreme orbital trajectory. They may instead push it to a graveyard orbit, but we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, it's I haven't got the news on that yet as to whether or not we're going to have a burn up. But we will see indeed. Okay. So 37% thinks that we're going to have a scrub today. Let's hope not, but I certainly understand where you're coming from. This is a brand new rocket, and Blue Origin doesn't want to lose it unnecessarily. I think Blue Origin will attempt to build a rocket larger than Starship. Absolutely. They've already announced that. New Armstrong will be the upgrade to New Glenn. The New Armstrong rocket will be the next improvement. John, thank you so much for your support. Blue Origin it's your first ever super chat. Boy, I'm honored. Thank you for supporting me here. So secretive that it's hard to be a fan. You know what, John? I agree completely. That's a bit irritating, the way they do things. As I say, if this rocket was being used for exclusively for military payloads and stuff, I would get that. But it's not. It's being used to go back to the moon. New Glenn is one of the primary rockets that are going to be making that happen, just as important as Starship. So, that being the case, we need to see how this rocket is doing. We need to get more information from, for example, from the NASA Office of Inspector General about New Glenn progress. We need to know these things. If we're going to get all the dirty laundry on SLS, which we should, because SLS has lots of dirty laundry to share, we need to get the same thing about New Glenn because it's going to be just as critical to the success of Artemis. So, yeah. Just a grim situation. Okay. So right now, nothing has changed in terms of Blue Origin's countdown schedule. They should be going live in 5 minutes. That, of course, assumes that they don't have a delay right off the bat, which they might. And if they do, then they won't go live. I think they learned from their last broadcast that if they do indeed, it's tough to keep talking forever about these topics, for their talking heads to keep discussing things regarding New Glenn and just covering the same information over and over again. So yeah, I think that they may have decided, you know what, we won't actually go live until 20 minutes prior to liftoff when we're pretty sure that we're going to take off. In that 20-minute time frame. That would be my guess anyway. So we'll see what ends up happening. But yeah. Determining launch timing, it's just a matter of when the FAA gave them their window. They don't There's no specific trajectory that needs to be accomplished, at least in terms of delivering a payload to any particular planet or anything like that. This mission isn't going to the moon. This mission isn't going to Mars. It isn't going anywhere that requires a liftoff at any specific time. This is just, there's a 3-hour window that the FAA gave them. And the reason they gave them this particular window is because there's no air traffic. Excuse me. There's zero commercial air traffic in that region. So yeah. Yeah, that's the only reason that they're doing things at the time that they are. So yeah, so in about 3 minutes, once again, they should go live. Very, very critical launch, as I've said before, for Blue Origin, of course, because they have continued to demand that they be treated to like a player at the big kids table, even though they have no right to be there until they actually get to orbit, in my opinion. So I've been highly critical of Blue Origin really ever since I started this channel, because of the amount of time that it's taken them to get to this stage, to this orbital capability. And yeah. Um, that in my view did not give them the right to compete for the kinds of contracts that they started to compete for, and to be granted the kinds of contracts that they were granted. I mean, as I said before, they're part of the HLS program. We are trusting a company that hasn't even been to orbit to get humans to the surface of the moon. Ridiculous. Supax, thank you so much, brother. Really appreciate your support. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So yeah, I mean, compared to SpaceX, compared to ULA, compared to most of the big players out in competitive space flight, Blue Origin doesn't have crap yet. and yet they managed to secure contracts as if they had. And once again, all that is because of Jeff Bezos and his tendency to sue people. The guy has so much money that he could put a tiny fraction of his cash away in a fund that just runs off of interest, and he could pay a whole team of lawyers whose only job is to sue NASA if they don't give him a contract, and they would never run out of money. He could pay a whole team of lawyers millions and millions of dollars every year just off the interest from a tiny fraction of his wealth, and just pay them to do nothing except sue NASA if they don't give him contracts, and they would never run out of cash. I mean, that again, and by the way, Elon Musk could do the same thing, and has actually, he sued NASA, in the old days, not as much these days, but he did in the past. It's an unbalanced environment that we have. Okay, so it looks like we're going to be going live here in just a moment. We should be when we have a hold. Well, Blue Origin's holding. Okay. So there we go. That makes sense. So they're not beginning their webcast yet. But you know what? Look at how they're doing things this time. They've already changed they've already changed their philosophy here. And before, what they would do is reset the timer and add like another 20 minutes, another 15 minutes or whatever. Now they're actually putting a hold on the clock, which is more similar to the way other companies do these things. So I'm sorry, go ahead. What was that, producer? Oh yeah, we need to keep Elon away from the countdown timer. So anyway, yeah, it's this should not surprise any of us that we have a delay here. And let's go ahead and see. Blue Origin may have given us an update on this. Let me check. Let's see if we have anything. No. Interesting. Blue Origin has not made any sort of public announcement about this hold. At least not as far as I can see. So again, this should not surprise anybody at all. It's again the brand new rocket. I mean, these things happen, so we'll see what transpires here, and we'll keep our fingers crossed. But yeah, thus far, Blue Origin has not made any mention of a delay or why they might have this on hold. It may just be a pre-planned hold. That's possible too. This is something that they could have already planned to do, because it's interesting that this hold was placed only 50 seconds prior to the broadcast going live. So that may have something to do with this. So yeah, all this could be preempted. The audio. Strangely enough, it was because I had an echo control on, and it was an echo cancellation function. Actually, I turned that off, and then it started working. No idea why. All I know is that it's working. Thank God. So yeah, once again, given the fact that we have a hold 50 seconds prior to when the webcast is supposed to go live, to me, that says a pre-planned hold. That's what that says to me, is that this is something that may have been in the launch plan today all along. We have over 400 people watching now. Yep, that's a bigger crowd than we had before. Thanks for checking in today, guys. Really appreciate you all being here, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. It's obviously very helpful to this channel. We're continuing to see if we have any new updates from Blue Origin on this hold, but they're telling us nothing. Again, in my opinion, with a 50-second prior to webcast going live hold, I would say that this is something that was pre-programmed, or pre-planned rather, that this is something that was always there in the overall plan. So we'll see what ends up happening here. But there have been no announcements, unlike how Blue Origin did it for the last launch attempt. They gave us notifications when there were delays every single time. So in any event, happy to answer any questions, by the way. Yeah, that is another thing to keep in mind. Good point. If the wind is blowing, wind speeds can make a big difference to any sort of launch attempt. Again, this should I hate to feel like I'm being always critical of things that Elon Musk says, but something that I try to do on this channel is to keep things real. And launching Starship every single day or multiple times a day, it's things like this that make me very skeptical that will ever really happen, because weather conditions and winds can have such a significant impact on launch plans and on flight plans. And I don't see how we'll ever be able to overcome that. Um, Especially if we're talking about point to point flights, launching from Boca Chica and flying 100 passengers to Tokyo in 45 minutes. I just don't see how that's ever going to that flying rockets, given all the things that can cause a scrub, I really don't see how that's ever going to be a reality to make space flight that consistently reliable. I think that we can improve it dramatically. I think these things can be improved, but there's just stuff about the weather that can really interfere with a rocket in flight that a commercial airliner can contend with far more effectively. So we'll see. It's Elon has proven a lot of naysayers wrong in the past. I hate to even think that I am a naysayer. There are so many things that SpaceX has done that people thought were impossible all along. I mean, it's amazing to see all the things that they've done, but I just don't see how they can overcome the weather. Any indication of Elon planning on developing any other rocket other than Starship? Thank you, Andre. Really appreciate your support. No, no. The Starship is the rocket of the future for SpaceX right now. Rodney, thank you so much. My God, Rodney, thank you so much for your support. $100 New Zealand. Really, really appreciate that. That will definitely help keep me on the air. And as I say, Rodney, wow, people like you, people like everybody who's been chipping in, the people who support me on Patreon too. You guys have no appreciation, I don't think. Well, no idea how much it helps. How I just simply could not keep this channel going without you. Without you guys and that kind of support, there's just no way that I would be able to survive. And all you guys who are just watching, that makes a huge difference too. The more of you watch, the more support I get. It's as simple as that. The more likes these videos get, the more that YouTube will share them, that YouTube will push them out to the public. So all of you contribute in to some degree, and I am deeply grateful to all of you. Thank you so much. Anton, thank you for the support. Can't let Rodney be the only Kiwi supporting the chat. Yes, indeed. Thank you so much for the Kiwis helping out here. And by the way, as I'm sure probably some of you have noticed, I've really done my best to try to provide as much coverage for Rocket Lab as possible in my content. because I think Rocket Lab and their technological innovation is very impressive. The things that they've been able to accomplish on a shoestring budget has been very impressive. Grand Rapids, thank you so much again for more support coming from your end of the scale. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Paul, thank you so much. Finally coming to Australia. Yes, indeed. I'm heading to Europe at the same time. Oh dear. But yes, I'll be coming to Australia later this year. Australia and New Zealand, actually. That's the plan. The IAC convention 2025 IAC takes place in Sydney. But my intention is to come to Australia for a month, and I want to visit all the major cities. I'm going to go to Brisbane and Perth, in Sydney. I really want to go maybe Darwin too. I'd like to even go that far north, and really get an opportunity to visit all of my supporters in Australia, and then of course take a flight over to New Zealand as well. New Zealand is a substantial distance, by the way, a substantial distance from Australia. But in any event, in fact, even once you get to New Zealand, the process of getting down to where Rocket Lab actually launches from, that usually requires another flight, because New Zealand, from north to south, is about the same distance as down the entire east coast of the United States. So once you arrive in Auckland, oftentimes you need to take another flight to get down to Rocket Lab's launch facilities. Adelaide, right? I won't forget Adelaide either. I really want to come and visit as many places in Australia as possible. Definitely want to go and see my viewers, because I've got thousands of loyal supporters in Australia, and given the time that I do my live streams, given the time that I do these things, I feel like you've been a bit neglected. So I want to make sure that I come down there and take care of you. And besides, would really love to experience Australia and New Zealand anyway. Okay, so yeah, we have no idea why they're on hold at the moment. This may be a pre-planned hold, but 50 seconds prior to the webcast going live, we have a hold. Let's see if they've given us any updates. Yes, we are entering a hold with the countdown clock at T-minus 20, new T-minus 0 forthcoming. So no, this was not anticipated, apparently. This was 5 minutes ago. Blue Origin sent a notification. We are entering a hold with the countdown clock at T-minus 20 with a new T-minus 0 forthcoming. So since they said that they have a new T-minus 0 forthcoming, that suggests to me that this was not a pre-planned hold, and we instead have some other issue. Again, the weather at the Cape was a little dicey. Something that they made mention of was the weather was not looking entirely optimal, and there was some talk a few hours ago from Blue Origin that they would cancel the entire launch and reschedule to tomorrow. But we don't have that. So hard to say. Anton Dim says, and Tasmania. Yes, it said that would be great to go see Marcus House in Tasmania. Hard to believe that Marcus House, who's such an institution, such a big name in covering space flight, that he really never leaves Tasmania, as far as I know. I think he stays there all the time. Which is very interesting to me. But he's not the only one. We definitely have some other really well-known broadcasters who just stay where they are, never really travel. And that's great. I'm however somebody wants to run their business makes sense to me. I prefer to go on site and actually see these things in person wherever possible. And I couldn't do it without you guys. You're the ones who make all that happen. So thanks very much again for making all that transpire. So here we go. What else? We're still on hold at the moment with no new T minus. Again, this doesn't surprise me terribly, but it is a bit frustrating. They had several days to restore, to check everything, to determine what might have gone wrong during their previous countdown process, and they're running into issues again. But it is possible. It is possible that that it could be a weather issue. To me, that's given the fact that now this does not appear to be a pre-planned hold, as I was thinking it might have been. I think this it could be a weather issue. To me, that seems likely. By the way, Indie Space, you're right. SLS is obsolete. We definitely need to get rid of it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've always felt that way. But the difference, the thing of it is, we need to get rid of it when we have another cislunar rocket ready, a rocket that's capable of taking human beings to cislunar space ready to go, which we don't yet. That's where I think we need to put some thought into when we actually cancel this rocket, when we actually shut it down. I don't think we're ready yet. I don't think we're ready for that situation. So if it's so that's it. Is it a BE chill-in, or they haven't specified exactly what the issue is. I still think weather's possible though, simply because of simply because this was not pre-planned. 9 minutes ago was the last update that we got from Blue Origin, and they still have not given us a new T minus. They may give us a T minus based on when the winds calm down. We'll see. Fingers crossed. But they, like I say, this is a bit frustrating, but again, should be expected that we would have these issues with a brand new rocket. But just to be fair, Vulcan Centaur also ran off of BE4 engines, brand new rocket, and and made it on the first launch and deployed its astrobotic payload successfully. That was a lunar payload on its first launch, and did a really good job. So, it's, I mean, we can expect these things to happen with new rockets, but at the same time, there's definitely a precedent for companies to make a brand new rocket work on the first attempt. So it's a little frustrating to see Blue Origin in this situation, given how much effort they put into this step-by-step, ferociously designed philosophy. But then again, if this is weather related, then it has nothing to do with it. That's a good point. Let me go ahead and have a look at Cape Canaveral's radar information for you. It's been a while since I've done that. Let's see if and producer, if you can pull that up as well, and maybe put it up on the screen, that would be nice. We can see what the situation is. Okay, we're looking here. Okay. All right, so there's no precipitation. None. It's near as we can tell. This looks clear as a bell. Yeah, I mean, there's a tiny amount of precipitation over the Atlantic, a tiny amount that could contribute to something, I suppose. But overall, the skies are totally clear. So wind speeds, yep. Wind speeds are the next thing. I'm going to try to get that right now. Bear with me for just a moment here. So, yep. Right now, I am seeing the only weather statement that we have currently is a RIP current advisory from 3:23 a.m. to 4 a.m. That's it. Other than that, the wind is at 9 kilometers per hour, gusting to 9, I guess. I mean, so yeah, we have no wind issues. So yeah, unless there's high altitude winds, that definitely could be part of the issue. But yeah, well, we have a storm system moving over. Is that what you said? All right. So currently it's still in Louisiana. Is that right? Still a couple states over. Yeah. So yeah, I would say that let's have a look here. Right now, the AccuWeather is showing winds from the northwest at 9 kilometers an hour, although high altitude winds could definitely be making a difference. And there are wind gusts up to 19 kilometers per hour. So, again, that shouldn't make that big of a difference. But high altitude winds definitely could have an issue. Again, we still don't have um we still don't have a new notification from Blue Origin. Let me check again and see if they've given us anything new at all. No, the last notification that we got from Blue Origin was 13 minutes ago. So all I can say is, guys, here we go again. Here we go again. It certainly looks like we may have some significant delays tonight from Blue Origin, as much as we didn't want to see that happen. But we have already hit the official launch window timeframe at the moment. So that countdown point has now come and gone, and we don't have a new T minus estimate from Blue Origin. So we now have an open launch window. Good point. Thank you, Darren. So as of right now, as I am telling you, as I'm talking to you right now, we have 2 hours and 59 minutes left in the launch window. The FAA has given a 3-hour launch window to this and all New Glenn launch attempts until they finally manage to get it off the ground. So we still have a considerable amount of time before Blue Origin runs out of that 3-hour window. But at the very least, we are well over 20 minutes away from liftoff. So if you have stuff to do, you might want to go do it, I suppose. In the meantime, producer, let's go ahead and put up the visibility. Let's show the viewers where the rocket will be visible from. That might be kind of cool, as to where they'll be able to see New Glenn flying from, assuming it actually flies tonight. That might be a good piece of information to share with the viewers. There will be a lot of visibility up the East Coast, and all the way up and into Georgia, all the way to actually a corner, the southeast corner of Alabama, will all be in that area. I'm just waiting for that image to come up here, and there we go. Actually, it looks like it came up a little while ago, and I'm a few minutes or a few seconds behind, rather. So you can see the different rings, visibility rings at launch plus 30. Obviously, it will only be visible from the Cape Canaveral region all the way out to launch plus 90 seconds, and then once we get to launch plus 120 seconds, then we're looking in the kind of the Jacksonville area, and perhaps Tampa. We might have some visibility there. Obviously, Orlando, and then you get to launch plus 150 seconds. That's when the southeastern corner of Georgia will be able to see it. And again, this is assuming clear skies everywhere. And the majority of Florida will be covered under that. And then after that, at launch plus 180 seconds, at that point, we will have visibility through much of Georgia, and even into part of South, not quite into, yeah, a little corner of South Carolina. And then at launch plus 210 seconds, visibility will improve through at least half of Georgia, half of South Carolina, all of Florida. And then the final visibility opportunity at launch plus 240 seconds. You'll have a corner of North Carolina, the majority of South Carolina and Georgia, and even a good a section of the southeastern corner of Alabama. So that's going to be the flight path visibility. And if it does indeed lift off, and you live in those regions, I strongly recommend that you step out and have a look. This will be an impressive launch. Be very bright for a nighttime launch. Should be very visible. And again, this is a rocket with substantially more thrust than a Falcon 9. So that should be very impressive indeed. Now we don't have a countdown clock at all from Blue Origin. Hang on, let's see if we have any updates from them. I'll tell you. Let's see. Nope. It's been 18. Nope. Hold on. There we go. There we go. Okay. Okay. So we're at 30 minutes and counting. All right. So, I mean, the good news is I don't think they would have taken that out of hold unless they thought that things were looking good at that point. So yeah, thank God. We finally have some forward progress on this. And so half an hour, and we should be ready to go. So let's see here. I am actually going to boil some more water and make some coffee. So I'm going to take a couple of minutes away from the camera, and I will be right back. So see you folks in just a couple of minutes. Hello, everyone. Thank you, BJ Turon. Thank you so much for your ongoing support here on this channel. So, yes, back again, and we are at about 23 and a half minutes. There we go. So, the Blue Origin live stream should be coming on here in just a minute. Yeah, I definitely, I'd agree, Christopher. Starship is looking great. It's definitely making good progress. It's hasn't reached reusability yet, and it hasn't deployed a payload yet. That will be happening on this flight. So we still, it has a ways to go, but yes, it's rocket. Definitely, things could have gone a lot worse. Definitely could have blown up on that first launch attempt when it was hammering the rocket with a bunch of debris, and it didn't. Again, demonstrating just how tough that rocket is because of all that stainless steel. So yeah, definitely, Starship is making good progress, just not an operational interplanetary ship yet. And that it could still be a while before we get to that point. But still, has anybody seen another New Glenn rocket besides the one that's on the pad now? Yes, we have seen at least one, if not two others, in the warehouse, and also more than one. As a matter of fact, they damaged two of their upper stages. One upper stage was damaged in an explosion that blew the door off the hangar, and then another one was also damaged. That thing had toppled over inside the hangar as well. Again, Blue Origin has said nothing about these incidents. The only reason we know that they've happened is because they've been caught by sharp-eyed observers in the area, in the area of the Cape. So I don't know. It's been a frustrating thing, to the lack of information that we've received from Blue Origin over the years with this rocket. We definitely need more, and I haven't requested this yet. I think I need to. We need to do a formal request for a report from the NASA Office of Inspector General to see where we actually are. Elon's going to buy Coke to put the cocaine back in Coke. Oh boy, wouldn't surprise me. Although, I've heard that that's a myth. I don't know enough about the history of it, but I've heard that's a myth. Well, okay, we're about to hit 20 minutes and 50. How about that? It looks like we may be going live from Blue Origin here in just a few seconds. Let's hope we'll actually get some coverage on this. Producer, I can't see the stream from Discord. Is there a reason for that? Okay. I can't see the Discord stream on my phone. But it looks like we've got Blue Origin going live here, although I assume we've got the sound muted from the copyrighted music. So here we go. It looks like that Blue Origin is going to broadcast for the next 20 minutes. ASN, if there's any chance that we can get the volume into Discord so I can hear it, because I have the volume turned off on the broadcast here. There's a chance we can get that. All right, thank you. All right, so there we go. We got we saw that before during the little introduction. Tim Dodd gets to be in the official introductions, and just to show how significant he is in the space flight journalism arena. So let's go ahead and tune in to the Blue Origin broadcast.
Welcome back, everyone. It's another great night for a launch attempt for our new rocket, New Glenn. Denise, thank you once again for joining me.
Thank you. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Here for it no matter what.
I hear you on that. Glad you're here for it. We introduced you the other night. You're a principal engineer on the New Glenn program. It's always good to have someone with a deep technical background here for the webcast. Now, picking up from where we left off a few nights ago, we had our first attempt at this NG-1 launch, and the team had trouble a couple technical issues along the way, which exceeded our available launch window, and we had to call a scrub.
Yeah, the team realized that the scrub was due to ice forming in a purge line on the auxiliary power unit that powers some of our hydraulic systems. Now, of course, auxiliary power units, or APUs, these will provide power to a variety of systems. It includes some of our hydraulics and other actuating surfaces.
Now, I'll say again, we've prepared rigorously for this first flight. Anything beyond our first objective, which is reaching orbit safely, is going to be a bonus. We know landing the booster on the first time is ambitious, but you know what? We are going for it.
And no matter what happens, we're going to learn so much. We'll refine, and we're going to apply that knowledge to our next launch.
And yes, that booster landing, we are really going to go for it. It's a key part of our first flight, and we really can't wait to see what happens with the booster. And yes, we recognize here at Blue Origin, it is incredibly hard to pull off, especially for the first time you try it, but you might even say we're just a little crazy to try it on the first flight, but the data we get for flying the complete mission profile is incredibly valuable.
You know, in fact, the attempt that we went through just the other night really netted us data about our vehicle, about our operations. So even though we didn't lift off, just going through the countdown in launch control was so valuable for our team. It is our goal to net immense amounts of collective knowledge about our vehicle as we build up our program, and that knowledge base is already growing.
I want to remind you that we have an early technology demonstration for Blue Ring on this flight. Now, this isn't the full Blue Ring vehicle. It is a pathfinder featuring core subsystems that we want to validate. It's a non-separating payload that is going to stay attached to the second stage through its entire 6-hour mission duration. So it is another exciting day, and we're just so glad that you are back here joining us for this launch attempt. Once again, it's not just Denise and me. We got a couple other faces helping us bring you all of the action today. Why don't we check in with Maggie McNeese from our government team in our DC office. She's reporting from upstairs in Mission Control. Maggie, you there?
I am here so long as you're here and my friends here in Mission Control are here. I'm going to stay.
Okay, good. All right, welcome back to our next launch attempt. Maggie, do you want to remind our viewers where you're standing up there? You are just one floor above us. What's around you? What's the action?
I've got Mission Control right here on my right. Just down the hallway a little bit is our Launch Control Center. These rooms have our controllers, our engineers, everybody who's working to make this launch a success today.
Love it. Thank you so much, Maggie. We're going to patch you in as we go. Why don't we check in now with Eddie Seifert back at nearby Cars Park. Our Florida employees once again are gathering for a second attempt. They are hardcore. Eddie, are you there?
Yeah, Ariane, welcome to the best seat in the house. This is fun. We're having a blast out
here. Another day, another employee gathering to cheer on New Glenn. An odd question, because I think I know the answer. How are everybody's spirits down there?
We are happy to be here. We're so proud that we get to be together, a part of the community. We're, hanging with each other and sharing hot dogs and huddling together for warmth. But we're most looking forward to the rumble of the BE-4s, looking at that blue streak across the sky. And now this crew behind me, they've committed to cheer more loudly than the BE-4s. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Y'all stay warm out there. We're going to keep you on speed dial, Eddie, as we continue with this show. Additionally, we also have employees at our other sites across the nation checking in and rooting for New Glenn. Let's see how they're doing. We have sites across the country. There we go. We've got Huntsville, Alabama, our headquarters in Kent, Washington. What up, guys? We can see you up there. We have our flag bearer from the other night. He has not given up, that guy.
My God.
Kent, Washington again,
Jeez.
our headquarters, where we work on all the projects. And then, of course, Huntsville, Alabama, where we build our BE4s and our BE3Us, as well as the Blue Ring system. They are ready to go. This is a big night for all of our employees across the country. Kudos to you guys. Let's do this, Blue Origin. All right, we are here at T-minus 13 minutes to go until launch. Why don't we check out the star of the show, New Glenn
Producer,
at the
is that,
pad here
copyrighted
as this
music
rocket
off?
gets ready for its first launch ever.
Okay, so we got white noise at the moment, waiting to see what's going to happen next. So I have to admit, I like all those kids in the crowd. I think that's a cool thing. I'm really happy to see so many children, as even though it's a tough night to be staying up that late to watch this launch, and these massive crowds from all over the country. It's kind of nice to see Blue Origin's staff up close and personal for the first time, really. Blue Origin keeps all this stuff under wraps most of the time, so it is neat to see some of that for a change. So just over 10 minutes, or just over 12 minutes actually, to lift off. Things so far, things looking good. I'm feeling cautiously optimistic that we are going to have this. And I'll tell you, for those of you, the reason I sound behind is because I'm actually not getting the current stream in front of me. I'm lagged with the rest of you. So in any event, we'll see what ends up happening. Aaron, I don't know why we can't see the current stream in Discord, but in any event, getting audio is good enough. Blue Origin's audio is back, so we'll go and check with that. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, don't worry about it, Aaron.
Welcome back, everybody.
I can hear it, and that's what matters.
11 minutes and 12 seconds to go until New Glenn's first launch ever, NG-1. So many of the people behind this mission are not only critical parts of the New Glenn operation, they're also super passionate people who are dedicated to the larger mission at Blue Origin. Yeah, we have a hold currently. Because so many of them, including
and guys,
you and
just so you know, this is a function actually of the delay between me and the producer.
I'm an ambassador. There's actually thousands of us here at Team Blue.
If you were to go, there's a few seconds delays between Blue Origin's current stream and us. It's just the nature of how it works. Yeah, it's impossible for it. Just so everybody knows why this works the way it does.
These kids are tomorrow's aerospace workers.
There's nothing wrong. It's just a matter of this is how it works.
We here at Blue Origin can do something about inspiring the next generation.
If I'm looking at the same delay that you guys are looking at, and that's why we have a delay in terms of my commentary. Don't worry, because I can hear what's happening as long as I can get the volume. Then I can keep up with what's happening with Blue Origin currently. Once again, we are in hold.
As a kid, and I know that my children also love making those postcards.
Given the problems that we've been experiencing with this, the fact that Blue Origin decided to bring their stream live suggests that half an hour ago they probably knew that, or probably felt that they had a good chance of getting a liftoff without another hold, but unfortunately, not the case. Not the case. Kind of irritating. But bear with me for a moment. I'm going to go ahead and check something else. Bear with me here. Yeah. Producer, you can go ahead and remove the volume from Discord. because I have another audio source now. Okay. So, all that being the case, we are still currently in hold at 11 minutes and 3 seconds. Again, this shouldn't surprise anybody. It's irritating as hell, but again, not quite typical with a brand new rocket. Still, at the same time, to be fair, Vulcan Centaur had a successful launch on its first attempt without all these holds. So again, I think that we could be seeing more evidence of Blue Origin's philosophy of doing things by the book and very, very carefully. So in any event, yeah, we'll do our best to just try to keep you up to date on what's happening at the moment, and fingers crossed. Let's hope that things proceed as expected. So in any event, yeah, like I say, sitting in hold, I'm happy to answer any questions. Oh yeah, there we go. Thank you, Anton Nim. New Glenn launch vehicle, including fairing, is 313 feet tall, just 50 feet shorter than Saturn V. It is a huge, huge rocket. How many engines? Seven BE4 engines are on the, with each one delivering about 500,000 pounds worth of thrust. Actually a little over 500,000 pounds. So we're looking at just shy of 4 million pounds of thrust from these 7 engines, which is approximately 50% of what Saturn V had. So, yeah. So we have an exclusion zone intrusion. That's what we have at this point. A boat has intruded into the exclusion zone. Bellatrix, nobody uses kilograms of thrust. Nobody. They use newtons if they don't use pounds of thrust, just to be clear. I do use metric fairly often, actually, but nobody actually uses, nobody actually uses kilograms of thrust. Instead, if they don't use pounds of thrust, then they use newtons. So yeah, we have an intrusion into the exclusion zone by a damn boat. Just irritating as hell. So yeah, very, very annoying. Very annoying indeed. So we'll see what happens at this point. But yeah, and when we're talking about, I mean, for example, Saturn V ran off of 7.5 million pounds worth of thrust. I don't think I've ever heard Saturn V's thrust being described in newtons in any documentary and anything, because back in the day when we were using Saturn V, that's how the thrust was measured. So yeah, 17 million newtons. Thank you, Anton Nim. Really do appreciate that. But nevertheless, yeah, frustrating to have yet another reset. Although in this case, a boat has intruded into the exclusion zone. That is what's happening at the moment. Very frustrating indeed. Cynic, thank you. Said Jacqueline with torpedoes to solve the boat issues. That sounds like a great idea, Cynic. Good suggestion there. So yeah, currently that's what we have happening with just over half an hour back on the clock. Beyond beyond frustrating after all the issues that we have at the moment. Thank you, Darren. I appreciate that. Kilograms is only in mass, not a force unit. Very good point indeed. The measurement in terms of pounds of thrust has nothing to do with mass. So thanks for that clarification. And a good point being made there. So yeah, China would have launched anyway. Come on. Yeah, unfortunately, another FAA restriction. Seems that Blue Origin is subject to them as much as SpaceX is or anybody else is. You get an intrusion into the exclusion zone, you need to clear that out. And by the way, whoever did that, whoever has intruded into that area, they've got the Coast Guard on their ass right now, and whoever is in charge of that boat is going to be receiving a hefty fine for that intrusion into NASA controlled space and U.S. military controlled space. So yeah, this is an ugly situation that we have right now with whoever decided to do that. They're going to pay a pretty substantial penalty. So. Anyway, we'll see. The boat has Kirk, Spock, and Gary 7. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think of that. They're going to get beamed over to the New Glenn to sabotage it. Yeah. Well, fortunately, drones hopefully will not create as much of an issue, or shouldn't be able to, because they use electronic countermeasures to knock drones out of the sky for controlled areas like this. Drones have a difficult time intruding into these areas. Of course, that doesn't mean that like a drone being used for espionage purposes couldn't intrude into this area. But your average commercial drone is most probably going to get knocked out of the sky by electronic countermeasures, which, by the way, is another reason why I'm in no way convinced that all these drone sightings that we've been having lately are commercial drones. There's so many restrictions that keep them from flying into those exclusion zones. So I just thinking that it's something besides that, a little bit more complicated. Okay, so but yes, there certainly are some drones that can overcome those sorts of electronic countermeasures. Right now, though, just to be clear, even some of the military ones, right now in the Ukraine war, Ukraine has demonstrated a capability of knocking drones out of the sky. They've proven to be very, very effective, like with electronic countermeasures against even military drones. Blue Origin will make any difference in the aerospace market? Yes, Lewis. I don't think it's obsolete at all. I think that a reusable rocket with a 7-meter fairing and a 40-ton lift capability to orbit, I think will have many capabilities that will be very competitive indeed.
Thank you again, everybody, for joining us for New Glenn's first launch to space. We are T-minus 28 minutes and 10 seconds to go until launch. If you've been joining along, we got very close to a go, no-go poll there, but we understand that there is a boat that is downrange where we don't want it to be. So we are waiting to clear that vessel from out of the way.
So, yeah, once again, we have another update. This damn boat, it seems everything else was looking good with the rocket this time around. That's frustrating as hell that after all these issues with the rocket, everything was looking good. Weather was looking good. Wind conditions were good. Rocket was good. And then we have a damn boat intruding. And like I say, whoever running that boat will probably face some very significant penalties, unless it's Cuban or something like that. That's possible, I guess, or from a nation that we can't enforce fines on quite as much. But I have a feeling that's probably not the case, though. I think it's probably a U.S. boat. that is that all the way up in the Cape Canaveral area. So there's going to be hell to pay for those folks, but nevertheless, Cynic in Chief, thank you so much for your support. And yes, I've seen the new Armstrong mock-ups. New Armstrong is a monster rocket. Just colossal. Although I think it's going to be a long time before we actually see New Armstrong anywhere near to being operational. So fingers crossed, but another frustrating incident. Of course, I still love you, says the that's funny. The boat is that's amusing. So yeah, I don't see Musk caring enough about this launch to interfere that much. I think Musk believes that he has a dominant advantage, and I think in many ways he currently does. But after tonight, this could be a big step forward for another company to enter into the competitive space flight arena and really make a difference. So fingers crossed, because we want competition, regardless of what I might think about Blue Origin, or especially Jeff Bezos. I'm in no way a fan of that guy at all. But it would be really great to see a competitive, a new competitor in the commercial spaceflight arena with heavy lift capacity and reusability. Nobody has that. Nobody has that at all, except for SpaceX right now. So this could change everything. Yeah, good old Thunderfoot. I guess we don't need to talk too much about him. But of course, most people in the YouTube world know who that guy is. And as you all know, I'm very critical of Elon and of, of the things that he claims are going to happen. And, the exaggerated claims on starships, progress, that sort of thing. I've been very critical, but at the same time, just to hate on it for the sake of hating it, which I think is what a lot of people do, just because they don't like Elon Musk. And believe me, Elon Musk pisses me off all the time too. But come on. I mean, let's try to keep an even keel. Let's try to be a little bit more even-handed about commentary and actually show some appreciation for accomplishments, regardless of what you might think of somebody. And SpaceX has accomplished a lot, has accomplished more than any company currently, any spaceflight related company. So all that, we want to see competition. We want to see other companies achieving the greatness that they have achieved. But but nobody has yet. So, we need to change all of that. So we'll see. I'll tell you, Darren, there's a big difference between New Glenn and Falcon Heavy. New Glenn's fairing is way bigger. It can carry a much greater variety of payloads than Falcon Heavy can. Its mass capabilities are actually inferior to Falcon Heavy, but in terms of that huge ass fairing, that is going to allow it to deploy certain types of payloads that no other rocket except for Starship and SLS would be able to deploy. So, in any event, oh, thank you, Wolfgang. Really appreciate that. Another $20 in your 5th ever super chat. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. I'll tell you, you guys have all been coming through for me big time tonight or this morning. Really appreciate that. And it's maybe, but you can't build a 7-meter fairing for Falcon Heavy. It's impossible. It's just all it is 3 bundled together Falcon 9s with a Falcon 9 upper stage. I mean, I'm sure you could probably custom build a new upper stage, but I'll tell you, the amount of time and engineering required to do something like that would be huge. I mean, Falcon Heavy has needed an extended fairing for a long time, a very long time. And yet it still doesn't have one today. And the reason for that is Elon doesn't want it. He doesn't want to invest the time, the engineering, the money in order to get an extended fairing for Falcon Heavy, because he thinks Starship will replace everything. And I think he's right. I think one day it probably will, but I don't think it's going to happen quite as fast as he thinks it's going to happen. So that is where New Glenn has an opportunity here. That's where New Glenn might be able to make a difference, is the colossal volume in this fairing will allow certain types of big payloads to be deployed that no other rocket will be able to send up aside from Starship or SLS. Cynic in Chief, thank you so much for your generous support. I really, really appreciate it. Really appreciate that. So, and even an increased fairing size, that doesn't mean it's 7 meters in diameter. It's just longer. It's not wider. It's not even 5 meters in diameter.
Joining us, we are at T-minus 20 minutes and 30 seconds to go until launch. As noted, we got down very close to our go-no-go pole, but then we noted an errant boat downrange, which we are still working to clear. So we've got a couple more minutes here. But while we've got a couple more minutes, Denise, I'd like to get a little deeper into New Glenn. We've got a lot of new viewers this evening. Do you want to give our audience a sense of what sets this vehicle apart from current and historic launch vehicles?
Absolutely. Well, to start, it's just massive at over 320 feet tall, or almost 98 meters. Just to think about that, that's like a 32-story building. It's really hard to describe what that means, but another way to think about it is, you know, we all know and love New Shepards. You could stack 5 New Shepards end to end, and that's about the size of New Glenn.
So our viewers can see there on the screen there, that's we actually could stick one of those in the fairing of New Glenn, actually. So, you know, it's remarkable to see the jump from New Shepard to New Glenn. We talk about our motto, gradatum ferociter, step by step ferociously. That is a pretty ferocious step we've decided to take.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. So New Shepard could fit inside of our payload fairing with even room to spare on the sides. Our fairings are just that big.
And again, as fun as that would be, we don't really need to ship New Shepard off to another planet anytime soon. But that said, it does speak to future capabilities, such as, say, moon landers, right? We're working on our Blue Moon lunar lander that we are working with our friends at NASA on, or other large vehicles that are similar in size to New Shepard. What's so brilliant about that 7-meter fairing is not, you know, when you pair the 7-meter fairing and all the volume that's in there, plus the power of New Glenn, we can take a lot of things to a lot of different destinations, orbits, planets, the moon with this rocket. And the versatility of this rocket is what makes it so important to not only Blue Origin with our own vehicles, but all of our other customers, right? You know, this vehicle is so large, and it's not often that people get to stand up close to a rocket. You know, and we showed this the other night during the first broadcast, but you and I got a chance a couple of days ago to walk next to this rocket, and man, oh man, there's some footage there. God, it's huge.
It's one of the things that I think I will remember the most from this whole experience. You know, we spent years just engineering the requirements and building it and testing it, and then the first time that you stand in front of this vehicle fully stacked is just breathtaking. It was just so cool to get to be so close to that rocket, and it's just so much bigger than words and figures can describe.
So you saw there a second ago we were just walking out of the flame trench, and I mean, of all the many things that I am looking forward to this evening, watching the water deluge system, we talked about it during the last webcast. The water is going to come streaming out of the water tower, which is one of the tallest water towers, the largest water towers ever built. It's going to suppress the vibration and the acoustics, and it's going to come flying out of that flame trench. And you and I were standing in it. And so when just the scale of everything, the rocket and all the infrastructure around it, when you get up close and personal, you realize the scale of what we're dealing with.
You truly do feel like you're just an ant when you stand next to it, right? You know, but going back to it, one of the things that I think is a key difference between New Glenn and other rockets that might have lifted off this pad in the past is really that reusability. So while the scale of New Glenn is truly remarkable, I mean, this rocket is built for big things with an incredible lift capability. It does it in a way that's sustainable and reusable, and that's really innovative and really special.
Yes, reusability. Really glad you brought that up because it's such a critical component to reducing the cost.
Serenity
of
at
future
7
access to
meters.
space. And you can't say enough about how important it is. When we started this company a long time ago, it was all about reducing the cost of access to space. And you can really, at the end of the day, there's no other way to do it other than coming up with vehicles that are reusable. And that is why, you know, we started with New Shepard, which is a reusable vehicle. We took a lot of the same concepts and transferred that over into New Glenn. But go back to the size for a second.
Yeah, I mean, so we all know and love the Saturn V, and rocket fans know this. Just like Saturn V and other big rockets, rockets fly in stages, and the job of the first stage, or what we sometimes call the booster, is to lift the vehicle from Earth up into space. The stages will then separate, and it's the second stage that powers our payloads into orbit.
And, you know, you guys, for some of our viewers who maybe aren't as huge rocket nerds as we are, the Saturn V is what took Apollo missions and astronauts to the moon. So you get a sense of the scale with that vehicle. And, well, you know, we might be just a little bit smaller than that, not by a lot. It's only about 10%. Like we are going to also be taking
John, yes,
people
Lunar Gateway
and
will be
vehicles
launched on
to the moon and beyond with this vehicle.
Pieces
So
of Falcon,
this
or
is
the
going
Lunar
to be our
Gateway will be
workhorse
launched on
vehicle
Falcon
for
Heavies,
decades to
with the
come,
exception
which is
of
why
one
we are
component
so
that will be
excited
launched
about this
in
launch.
the
It really is a
Universal Stage
historic launch in the
Adapter
sense
of
that
an
we intend
SLS,
this
assuming,
is
of
day
course,
one.
that
We are
that
opening
mission
a new
actually
chapter
flies.
for not only Blue, but for spaceflight capability and for customers around the world to be able to put things into space for less. And who knows what that's going to open the doors to. So that's our baby. That's our New Glenn in a nutshell. For those of you that are less familiar with this rocket,
Okay,
obviously
we're back
super
to
proud
white
of
noise
this vehicle, and we cannot wait
from
to send it up to space
Blue
in just
Origin.
T-minus 13
And
minutes and 50
this
seconds
launch
to
was
go until
scrubbed,
launch.
yes, indeed, just a couple of days
Let's turn
ago.
it back to the rocket and listen
There
in
was
as it gets ready.
a chill
Go to
line
space.
that experienced an issue. But currently things seem to be moving forward properly. They've had multiple delays again. Most recent one caused by a boat that has intruded into the exclusion zone. Understanding currently is that that boat is now out of there. Let's hope. Just very, very frustrating that we've been having these issues up to this point. But nevertheless, fingers crossed, and let's hope that it actually goes this time. John, thank you so much for your support. The only way New Glenn's lifting capacity can be improved is if they did a triple core New Glenn, similar to the Delta IV Heavy. That would be one way to really increase its lifting capacity, to essentially make a Falcon Heavy version of New Glenn. That would be a huge increase. You'd be looking at about 10 million pounds worth of thrust, well over a Saturn V's capability, and about 2/3 of Starship, if they were to do something like that. But Blue Origin hasn't talked about a triple core New Glenn yet. But I think that it could be done. It could be done. So we'll see. All right, so we're down to just under 12 minutes. Fingers crossed. Yes, thank you, Sun God. Appreciate the comment. And yes, I think that I think anybody who's a fan of space flight should be happy if Blue Origin pulls this off. I've been extremely critical of this company for years, and especially some of their decisions when it comes to their litigious nature. But nevertheless, if they pull this off, though, that will be a big moment for the future of space flight, most definitely. All right. So we are currently just over, we're about to hit the go, no go poll in about 45 seconds. Once we get to that, well, we shall see. You're right. Web, their Webco, there was a number of issues that SLS had that caused some significant delays to lift off before it finally went. I mean, of course, on the positive side of it, it was a flight that was largely flawless. The only problem was with Orion's re-entry and a couple other minor things, but overall, that test flight went really, really, really well. But yes, there are quite a number of issues because I actually went to watch SLS lift off on that first attempt that was made, and yeah, very disappointing when they scrubbed that. So we are now at the go no go. The go no go poll has come and gone, and the clock is still moving. I think we. Okay, here goes the go no go poll.
Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. We are at T-minus 9 minutes and 40 seconds to go until launch. We are awaiting here the go no go poll for New Glen's first launch to space. Now, at this point, we're going to throw it over to launch control. They're going to go around the room and see if we are ready to go to space. Keep in mind that upstairs we have our launch control and our mission control room. In the mission control room, we have the team that is managing our Blue Ring Pathfinder payload this evening. As we mentioned on the last webcast, I'm particularly proud of our Blue Ring team. It's the team that I help lead here at Blue Origin. They have been working very hard on this payload, and they are ready that as soon as the second stage separates from the first stage, the fairings will deploy, and it is heading out to MEO, to Middle Earth orbit, where it is going to remain up there orbiting the Earth for about 6 to 8 hours or so, collecting various data, checking all of the various systems, primarily telecom systems. There you see poll coming in here. Stand by.
Go pending L-10 actions in work.
Roger, report when those are complete. Recovery.
Go.
PLI.
Go.
LSO.
Go.
OSM.
Go.
RC. Go. ESR.
Go.
AC.
Go.
And BMD.
Go.
LD is go as well. All stations LD on count 1 with the terminal count. Briefing all personnel remain in current positions until launch. Maintain operational silence in the control room. All controllers move to count 1 for launch. If a constraint is observed between now and launch, commit. Announce hold, hold, hold on count 1. Briefly state reason. OSM LD set hold fire switch to launch position.
Launch.
And LD is in launch. Guido, verify, abort, request, flag, false.
Okay, we appear to have a slight
Abort
delay in the
request
go
false.
no go poll. Okay, we appear to be go. We appear to be go for launch.
We've prepared rigorously for it, but no amount of ground testing or mission simulation is a replacement for flying this rocket. Our key objective today is to reach orbit safely. Anything beyond that is a bonus. And believe me, we are nothing if not persistent.
I did not hear that from the...
Now, we're getting very, very close here. T-minus 6 minutes and 30 seconds to go until launch. Our terminal
count is starting to look real, guys.
Is beginning in just a few minutes. You just heard it right there. We are go for launch this evening. But one important aspect of our rocket that we haven't really touched on today, our New Glenn rocket is called New Glenn. It is named after an American hero, John Glenn, the first American to orbit Earth, circling it 3 times in 1962.
He also served as a U.S. Senator for more than 2 decades in the state of Ohio. And then amazingly, Senator Glenn flew to space again in 1998 at the age of 77 on board the Space Shuttle Discovery STS-95 mission.
Now, this gentleman led an incredible life. He died in 2016 at the age of 95. But shortly before he died, our founder, Jeff Bezos, was able to connect with the senator and tell him that we hope that he'd be willing to lend his name to Blue's first orbital rocket. And we have here a copy of the letter that he sent back. You can see it is really meaningful to us. Just a moment, let me read you a couple of words. When I first orbited the Earth in 1962, you were still 2 years from being born. And when I returned to space in 1998, Blue Origin was still 2 years in the future. But you were already driven by a vision of space
Yes, to
travel
answer your question, TY, they have both a flame
pilots,
trench and a water deluge system for this rocket.
I'm deeply touched that you've named the second generation of those rockets New Glenn. As the original Glenn, I can tell you, I see the day coming when people will board spacecraft the same way millions of us now board jetliners. When that happens, it will be largely because of your epic achievements this year.
I get goosebumps every time. You know, he's the first American to orbit Earth, and I've seen that letter hanging in our headquarters building in Kent.
Guys, this is feeling
it's one
very,
of our
very
treasured artifacts. Everybody, we're at T-minus 4 minutes and 30 seconds to go until launch. We are very close.
In just a few seconds.
We are coming up here on terminal count. Do not go anywhere.
Fingers. Yep. We are past the 4-minute mark, guys. Rocket controls now have been transferred over to the rocket, and things are still moving, folks. I think this is finally looking very, very real.
Safing timer started.
3 minutes 30. Yes, this is an unmanned launch, guys. This rocket has not exploded before. Another question was asked about that. A New Shepard rocket exploded a couple of years ago. This is the first launch of this rocket.
Minus 3 minutes, 30 seconds.
First ever launch of New Glenn coming up in 3 minutes.
Charge initiated.
Our team is now securing all the commodities to our first stage and our second stage. They're also going to be draining and purging all the umbilicals that are supplied
over
to New
2
Glenn.
decades for this moment to come. This rocket is years late in its development. But that wait may very well be over. In 2.5 minutes, we'll know.
GS2 hydraulic secured.
Two minutes 15.
Magic charging complete. T-minus 2:30. GS1 pre-press start.
Two minutes and still counting.
We are now pressurizing the tanks to their flight pressures. Of course, this is crucial for the performance of our engines. Getting ready for launch.
T-minus 2 minutes.
We're now going to be switching off the ground power supply and transitioning New Glenn to its internal
1 minute
vehicle
30.
batteries. When this happens, the vehicle is now powering itself. Let's do this, New Glenn.
New Glenn now running off of its own power. This is real, guys. The clock is still moving.
T-minus 130. Power internal.
There it is. New Glenn is alive.
60 seconds. Godspeed, New Glenn. Godspeed, Blue Origin.
T-minus 60 seconds.
40 seconds.
Range green. AFSS flight enabled.
30. 20. We have the water deluge system going now, guys. Here we go. Here we go.
APU's running. T-minus 30 seconds. GS1 at flight level. GS2 at flight level. Big water start.
That's a big water command. There's the water deluge. Here we go.
Lift off.
Time to do this. Let's light this candle.
Autopilot enabled.
Oh
T-minus
my
10,
God.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 1. Lift off. All 7 engines at full thrust. Chamber pressures are good. Vehicles cleared the tower. Now passing 18 seconds into flight.
All 7 BE4 engines appear
Engine chamber pressures look good.
appear to be
27 seconds
Man,
in.
that's
Vehicles
beautiful. Oh my God, look at it go.
now begun the pitch roll maneuver to point down range. Body rate responses are nominal. Chamber pressures continue to look good. Now 40 seconds into flight.
Oh my God!
End of roll. Strakes are now level. Chamber pressures continue to look good.
Folks, we have just seen history made.
50 seconds in. Data quality looks good coming down
This
from the vehicle.
rocket is now in flight.
Chamber pressures continue to look nominal. 1 minute into flight.
Waiting for this. And liftoff.
All 7 engines continue to look good on the first stage. Data quality is good coming down from the vehicle. Body rate responses are nominal.
Space flight and
1 minute,
the
15
first
seconds
bricks
into flight.
as we build a road to space for the benefit of Earth.
Profile looks good.
New Glenn has achieved maximum dynamic pressure and has flown through
well.
one of the
Now
most
passing 1 minute, 30
challenging
seconds into
parts
flight,
of this
passing Mach
flight.
1.
New
New Glenn
Glenn
is now
has accomplished. All 7 BE4 engines still seem to
Engines
be
continue to
running.
perform well. Now passing through max Q, maximum dynamic pressure.
Oh my God, look at that.
Body rate responses are nominal throughout the boost phase. Data quality
New Glenn just
continues to
passed
look good. Chamber
80,000
pressure's looking
feet.
good. All
Still
7
climbing.
Max Q, maximum dynamic pressure. The toughest part of the flight on that vehicle, we have
passing 2
punched
minutes
through
into
it,
flight.
and
Glenn
New
still
Glenn
has a
keeps
ways to
its
go to
continues to
pass
look good
this
on all
limit.
7 B4 engines. Acceleration
All
profile
7
is good.
engines
Body
still
rates
seem
look
to
good.
be going
1 minute to MECO.
as planned.
B3U LH2 chill-in started. The 4s continue to perform well throughout the boost phase. Now passing 2 minutes, 30 seconds into flight. Trajectory is nominal.
Okay, we're almost at
2 minutes, 40
MECO,
seconds.
and then we're going to have
Approximately
stage
30 seconds remaining
separation.
in boost phase.
And here we are coming up
Chamber
on
pressures on all
MECO.
7
Main engine cutoff. Let's stand by for that.
Continue to look good.
Main engine cutoff accomplished. Now we need stage
Stage
separation.
2 RCS priming.
Stage separation complete.
Now passing 3 minutes. And we have MECO.
two BE-3U
Clear stage
engines
set.
now ignited. Looking optimal. Second stage has now ignited, separated successfully, and is on its way to MEO.
And we have ignition on both BE-3Us. Chamber pressure is good. Now passing 3 minutes, 40 seconds into flight. Body rates look good. Data quality coming down from both stages. Looks good. GS2 performing a pitch-up maneuver. Body rate response is nominal. BE-3U chamber pressure continues to look good. We have good payload fairing jettison.
Trajectory looks good, and this rocket is on its
Separation
poised
confirmed of the two
to pass the
stages.
Kármán line.
Tank pressures are within their limits.
Stage 2 is now continuing its launch and flight up into
Now
MEO.
passing 4 minutes, 20 seconds into flight.
Our booster is going to try to make a landing.
Less than 3 minutes
You
now
see
remaining
the
to
landing
GS1.
target out there
So
in the
far,
ocean. We are going to
things
land on the
looking
Jacqueline, the
really
landing
good for New
ship
Glenn.
that is awaiting this beautiful booster to make a landing.
Stage
Good bottles look
separation.
good.
We are waiting to see what's going to happen to that booster. Let's see if
Trajectory
that
looks good on
we
both
don't
stages.
have an image. Like I say, it appears that Blue Origin and it
4
doesn't
minutes,
have
50
the
seconds
same
in
kind
flight.
of camera capability that SpaceX has. We're not getting that at all. But at the same time, we do have successful stage separation, and we don't have any information as to whether or not the booster is on its way to try to make a landing on Jacqueline.
5 minutes, 10 seconds into flight. Thrust on both BE-3Us continues to look good. 5 minutes, 20 seconds in. Less than 2 minutes now remaining to GS1 engine ignition.
Thank you again, everybody, for
GS1
joining
has
us for
reached
New
out.
Glenn's first launch to space so far. 5 minutes and 30 seconds into launch. Everything continues to be nominal. A clean separation of stage 1 from stage 2. Stage 1, our booster.
right,
We are
this thing
looking
is
to
blown
land it
past the
on our
Kármán
landing
line.
ship, Jacqueline. There you see its
And
targeted
here we
landing
go
spot where the
for
feather
an
is there.
attempted landing on the drone ship. We can see that the
And
booster
stage
is on
2,
its way
carrying
back.
the Pathfinder for Blue
Altitude
Ring, will
dropping
continue
rapidly on the
its
booster,
mission
but
up
unfortunately
towards
we don't have
MEO
any camera
orbit,
views of
where
it
we will be
right
collecting
now.
data
But the
for
second
6 hours.
stage
But
of
let's
New Glenn
continue to
has
watch
blown
here
past the
as
Kármán
the two
line,
vehicles continue
and
on
with
their
both
way.
BE-3U engines burning hydrolox and not methalox. So far, this is looking really impressive.
Confirmed GS1 engine chill active.
We have an
Less than 1 minute now remaining
altitude
to
dropping down to about
exo-atmospheric
60
engine
miles,
ignition.
about 100 kilometers, just under 100
6 minutes,
kilometers
30
right
seconds into
now.
flight.
And
So
the
coming up
booster
here, we're
is
going to see the middle
plunging
of the
towards
3
Jacqueline.
7BE4
Body
engines
rates on
on the
GS1
booster
engine
light
It
up.
appears to be on course right now, so we'll see what happens here. 7 minutes
Chamber pressures
into
on both
flight,
BE-3Us
This is going to
continue
slow
throughout
the
burn.
vehicle
New Glenn
down,
is
and then
well
as the
past
vehicle
the
gets
Kármán
closer
line
to the
and
landing
seems
ship,
to
the
be on its
Jacqueline,
way out
the 2 outer
without
of the 3
any
middle
problems
engines
whatsoever.
will shut off, and just
Boy,
one in the center
it's
will remain
look at this
to
booster
help slow
plunge.
as well as
It
guide the
is
vehicle
losing
back to
altitude
the landing
very,
ship.
very
You've
rapidly.
also seen on the
heading
booster
towards
vehicle, we have
Jacqueline.
the steering
It
fins
appears
at
to
the
be
top
on
of the
course at
booster,
least.
as well as the strakes, which act essentially as wings. This vehicle is flying back to the Jacqueline, providing lift to come in for a nice,
we've
soft,
got
and
a
vertical
relight on
landing
the engines.
onto the landing ship.
We
the
have
Jacqueline.
a engine relight. Okay, there we go. Yes, we now
Chamber
have
pressures on both
a
BE-3Us.
picture from the booster as it is
All 3
plunging
engines
down
relight
towards
confirmed.
Jacqueline for an attempted landing. Boy, it is plunging
Body
so
rates look good on
fast.
GS2.
Okay.
Continuing through its planned burn.
I'm not sure about the
7 minutes,
telemetry
45
right
seconds
now. We appear to have lost altitude telemetry from the booster. We might have lost the booster at this point. We'll see. It's hard to say, but I think we may have lost the booster here.
Seeing good MR response on the V3U engines. Seeing good throttle profile.
May have just
Chamber
hit the
pressures
ocean.
continue to look good throughout the burn. 8 minutes, 20 seconds into flight.
But one thing we can see is that the booster at least got somewhere close to the landing site. Better than nothing. But again, we'll see.
Tank pressures
right now, we have no altitude telemetry from the booster. It wouldn't surprise me if it exploded.
8 minutes, 40 seconds in.
But right now, the upper stage of New Glenn on course, holding its trajectory as expected. And I'm pretty sure that the booster has been lost.
Now passing 9 minutes into flight.
And yeah, with no telemetry, I would say we have a decent. I'd say the odds are it probably exploded shortly after the engines ignited, or it may have lost. Might have lost its aerodynamic stability.
GS2 data quality continues to look good throughout the burn. Chamber pressures, both engines staying very close to each other.
But again, right now, New Glenn has accomplished its primary objective, and that is to reach orbit.
Less than 3 minutes now remaining in the GS2 burn.
Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. Wow, what a moment so far. We obviously have some frozen data here on our stage 1, on our booster. We're still waiting to understand what the situation is with the booster. Meanwhile, our second stage, GS2, continues
10 minutes, 20 seconds into
its
flight.
ascent, as well as
we've lost telemetry. I would say odds are the booster exploded or lost stability in flight.
You see good throttle response
again,
on both
our primary
this should not,
objective,
again,
getting to orbit
I
safely.
don't think Blue Origin had any delusions that they were going to be able to land the booster successfully on the first attempt. But right now, I'll tell you, the upper stage of New Glenn appears to be doing as well as we could expect, flying well above the Kármán line.
$11 minutes, 10 seconds into flight.
Although we're seeing what appears to be an altitude drop from the second stage.
Traveling at
that could be planned, but I'm not. The speed's increasing, but we have an altitude. Assuming that that's accurate, altitude seems to be dropping down.
Data looks good coming down from Cedrus.
All right, we're gonna. Mission Control seems to be indicating that there's nothing wrong with this trajectory. They're not telling us that there's a problem.
Both B3Us continue to look
good.
Could
be all of this was as planned. Still, it's kind of funky to see the altitude dropping at this point, unless
12 minutes, 10 seconds
those numbers may simply be an error. Now, according to Mission Control, the stage is in orbit. The only conclusion I can come to is that data is an error because the
IAP vanish.
Velocity is still increasing, and as you can hear from the cheering, New Glenn has achieved orbit and is in the proper trajectory. And now we have secondary engine power.
12 minutes, 53 seconds in the flight. And we have engine cut off. Body rates look good following engine cutoff.
Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. SECO
first
we
coast of
cut off the engines on the second stage. What does that mean? That means that
Yes, this is an extremely
critical number one objective.
elongated
We got to
trajectory.
orbit
Very,
safely.
it
Congratulations!
is not a circular orbit, so yeah, we can expect it to be a little bit different. It is interesting to see the altitude drop almost all the way down to the Kármán line, but it's doing it's doing what it's supposed to. Obviously, as you can see from the crowd. So the booster, we don't have any information on it yet, but the loss of telemetry suggests a loss of booster. It's probably going to be a little while before we get full information on that. But yes, as you can see from the jubilation.
Park here. We have Eddie Seifert.
14 minutes, 10 seconds in the flight.
Hey, Ariane, we are so happy to be here at Rocket Park, our orbital launch site. This team is so proud that we got to orbit. What an incredible rumble from the B4 engines. This was such an experience to live together, to be a part of this community.
Amazing. You can feel the energy. What a fantastic day. Thank you, Eddie. To the whole team, again, congratulations on getting to orbit. Now, I know all of you are tuning in. We're still trying to get all of the data here. We seem to have lost telemetry on the first stage, on the booster. We very well may have lost the booster. We are still coming in with all of the information. I want to make sure that we get you the right information. But nonetheless, the main objective that we were going for this evening is that we hit orbit. And now I do have confirmation that we did in fact lose the booster. You can see from the map there how close physically the booster got to making its landing. Of course, we'll have all of the information on what exactly happened with the booster in the last moments. As you did hear, we did have the booster relight the 3 middle engines, which is what we were looking for. So things we know were good up until that point. But we just need to go through the data. And of course, after the show, on all of our social media channels, we are going to have more information on those details.
We can cut them at this point.
But key here, we hit our main objective.
All right, folks. At this point, there's going to be a lot of celebration over at Blue Origin, and for good reason. An incredible accomplishment today. Sure, no booster landing, but nobody expected a booster landing. Starship had its boosters explode and fail on the first launch. Definitely, actually, on the first couple of launches, they lost the booster. So that's something we can expect. And Blue Origin gave no indications that they were very optimistic about a booster landing. We will see exactly how close they came. But given where there was a total loss of, of telemetry, I would say that there's probably an explosion somewhere around 50 or 60,000 feet, or they lost control of the booster at that point. But they did manage to relight the engines on the booster. That's important as well. And the second stage is holding the orbital trajectory that it's supposed to be holding in order to enter into that medium Earth orbit, MEO or MEO orbit, that it was supposed to go to. So much higher than a lot of typical orbits that tend to happen with the first launch. So overall, Starship has competition now. Definitely has competition. And at this point, I think it's going to be a race to see who actually reuses a booster from a heavy lift rocket like this first. Is it going to be Starship that gets its booster reused right now? For this particular launch today, Starship will reuse one of its Raptor engines, one. But how long will it be between now and a full reuse of the booster on Starship? And how long will it be before Blue Origin can stick the landing with New Glenn and reuse that booster? I think that the race to reusability, to full reusability, is going to be a very critical thing for both of these rockets now as time goes on. But still, this was an impressive first launch for New Glenn, I must say. Very impressive to have blown past the Kármán line, to have entered into the proper orbital trajectory, successful stage separation, all of that, definitely impressive indeed. So at this point, now it's going to be up to Blue Origin to get another rocket into service and to get it off the ground as rapidly as possible. But still, Blue Origin has definitely made a splash in the competitive spaceflight arena. Thank you very much for joining me today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Congratulations again to Blue Origin. And until this evening, where I will be covering Starship Launch 7, so just a few hours from now, I'll be back going live with you folks again. So until then, stay angry about space.